It's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Shelach, being Jewish again. If you look at the Parsha, there's a strange problem. We know most of the Parsha of Shelach is about the Meraglim, the spies, the 12 spies who went, and 10 of them were evil spies who spoke ill of the land of Israel, and they didn't want to go to Israel, and then they were punished to not go to Israel. For 40 years they were condemned to the desert. Then God says, well, one day you will go to Israel, but and when you go, you'll have libations, you'll have a lot of wine, you'll pour wine on the altar. You'll have bread, you'll give a piece to the Kohen, the challah, very good. And then it says as follows, B'chitishku, if you make a mistake, is that one person or all of you? All, as we say in the South, all y'all. V'lo ta'asu et kol ha'mitzvot eila, and you won't do all the mitzvot. I mean, you won't do any of them? Then, et kol asher tzivah Hashem b'yad Moshe, v'yom asher tzivah Hashem v'hala l'dorotichem. All the mitzvot that Moshe has said from this day and on. And if there is such a shkaga, then what do we do? Asu kol ha'edah. All the nation needs to do the following. All the nation? All the nation didn't do any of the mitzvot. They all need to do par ben bakar echad le'olah. Bring one cow for olah. That's a Holocaust offering. You offer the whole animal. And then, as far as a sin offering, you'll bring a goat for a sin offering. And very often, goats are sin offerings. Okay. So, number one, strange. The Jews are going to not do any of the mitzvot God commanded. Strange. The second problem is that there is a parsha about this already. Parsha Vayikra. Vayikra, it says, 4:13, if everybody makes a mistake, they didn't realize something, it passed over their eyes. They did one of the mitzvot that you shouldn't do, and then it was found out that they did it. They should bring what? Par ben bakar lechatat, a cow for chatat. Over here, what do? Over here in our parsha, we have one cow as an olah and a seir chatat. And here we just have one par for chatat. It's hard to keep track of it. If you just, in general terms, it's a different sacrifice. So it must be talking about different things. So what's going on? So Ibn Ezra says, well, what does it say? B'chitishgu. So it has to be something, this is a mistake. All right, but both parshas are a mistake. V'lo ta'asu et kol ha'mitzvot et kol asher tzivah Hashem. All the mitzvot, all the positive commandments, that's something that God commanded. The positive commandments. So the Ibn Ezra thinks that the mistake here is in some sort of shelo lasot uvein shelo asu b'shga mashet tzivah lasot. It includes not only not doing things wrong, but doing things that they were not doing things they were supposed to do. You know, let's say you're supposed to wear tzitzit, as it says later on. So they didn't wear tzitzit, so it's a sacrifice for that. Comes Ramban and says, no, that's not what the rabbis say. The rabbis and Rashi say no. The official interpretation of this is as follows: that what would be one mitzvah that would be a terrible thing, that it's as if they didn't do any of the mitzvot? Idolatry. If the Jews as en masse will do idolatry, and then they realize their sin, then they bring a sacrifice for it. The Ramban says, well, doesn't say idolatry, so he says, well, I'll tell you how we could sort of bring all this together. Both the simple meaning of the text that they didn't do any of the mitzvot, and the avodah zarah idea. He says, there are times in history when the Jews don't do anything right. He says, really? When would there be such a time? He says, what do you mean? The times of Yeravam, the northern kingdom of Israel. There are times in the book of Ezra, when they got all the Jews back from Babylonia, nobody was following the commandments, everyone was intermarried, everything was all mixed up, nobody knew any of the rules. So there are times in history when everyone violates everything. The rabbis, rather than saying that, they described one mitzvah that's equal to all the other mitzvot, which if you got that wrong, you might as well have gotten everything wrong, and that is avodah zarah, the worshiping of idols. I mean, if you believe that that chair over there is God, so then you can put in all the tzitzis you want, and you can wear tefillin and daven 3 times a day, and you can keep Shabbos, but you got the wrong religion. So therefore, the notion that the Torah expresses in the simple meaning of the text that you didn't do any of the mitzvot that you were commanded, and the rabbi's idea that you worship idols, they can come together. Also, the Ketav HaKabbalah also says the same idea. The Netziv, similar idea, that these two ideas can come together. Comes Rabbi Soloveitchik and he says, but what about the difference between the sacrifices? Why is over there, they did something which the rabbis interpret to mean, Parsha Vayikra, that's if they did a sin that was punishable by kares, something you get cut off for. Eating on Yom Kippur, eating the wrong fats, there's certain fats on the animal they're not supposed to eat. Today they just take them off before you eat them. But so if you do one of those things which is highly punishable by kares, excision, then you bring this sacrifice. But over here, there's a different point. The point here is that there's also an olah. Now, an olah, usually you bring a cow. For an olah, we bring on holidays, Sukkot, things like that. An olah is something you might bring just what you want to bring. You feel like you want to bring in the davah, you want to bring a gift to God. So why would they just either didn't do any of the mitzvot, or they didn't do the positive mitzvot, or they worshipped idols? Why at this moment would they be bringing a sacrifice that's sort of celebratory? I understand the sin offering, Vayikra, a cow for sin offering, good. Here, a goat for sin offering. That's what we always do. Every holiday, always bring one goat for sin offering. Sirizim echad lechatat. Those who are familiar with Torah reading, we know we always say Sirizim echad lechatat. It says tens of times in the Torah, when you want to bring a sin offering, you bring a goat. But over here, there's also a cow for an olah. What's that? Says Rabbi Soloveitchik in Rabbi Schechter's book, Divrei Harav, that this cow represents the joy of tshuva, the possibility that we could come back. If, as we said in the Ramban, it could be coming back from a total loss of Jewishness in toto, that people completely forgot any of the mitzvot. Or equivalent to that, they're worshiping idols, they're worshiping the wrong God. Comes this parsha and says, you can come back even from that. After the sin of the spies, there was a question, could the Jews come back? If the Jews have rejected Israel, which also the rabbis say is equal to all mitzvot, if the Jews have rejected the basic question of, where do we belong? Where is our place? Which for all Jews, I don't care if you're Satmar, I don't care what you are, all Jews, Israel is the place. Whether we should go now, we should go later, how we should do it, how should we accomplish it, it's a different question. But there's no Jew who's self-respecting who would say that Israel is not a place that we're connected to. And yet, what do the Jews do in the desert? They say, no, we're not going to go to Israel. We like it better in Egypt. There's too many giants there, we're not going. That's a basic rejection of everything. How can the Jews come back from that? Comes the Torah and says, if you make a mistake and you don't do all the mitzvot that Moshe says, you can come back. And when we come back, we're going to bring an olah. We're going to give like a thanksgiving offering to God. We're going to say thank you. Thank you despite the fact that we got so far away, you brought us back. Like a good parent, right? They always leave the door open. And when the child, after he was an alcoholic or wherever he was in jail or whatever he was, he comes back home and his parents give him a big hug. He says, thank you. Thank you for being my parents, that I knew that when I did teshuvah, I can come back home and the door is still open. That's this parsha. That's this section about the Shgaga. That's the story of the Shgaga. This section is often overlooked in this parsha. You can be Jewish again. I think a lot of people had forgotten that it was a minor part of being Jewish was a minor part of their lives. We have other things: college, basketball, soccer, grades, work, job, wealth. And people forgot about a lot of Jews kind of forgot about Shabbos, kosher, that it's being Jewish is a major identity major part of who you are. A lot of people forgot about it. I'm not here to criticize. It happens. It happened throughout Jewish history. Sometimes people forget. The last number of months, we've been reminded that for other people, it's a big deal that we're Jewish, that we identify with people of Israel, the land of Israel. And suddenly our identity becomes very important. And this parsha is here to tell us that when we come back and we say, oh, I didn't realize how important my identity was. The door's open. Our Father in heaven hasn't forgotten us. Take us back. For that, we give thanks. We bring that cow as an offering to God, sort of a free, it's not related to the sin. The sin offering is one thing. And after we bring the sin offering, as we bring the sin offering, we also say, thank you, God. Thank you for always being there for us, even when sometimes we forget you. Thank you for joining us here at the Baron Hirsch Congregation for discussion of the Parsha. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. And join us for our various discussions we have on past videos, on the Parsha, on the holidays, and all that. And thanks to our sponsors. We want to thank Karen Barney Abbas, sponsoring memory of Harry and Miriam Cooper. May their memories be blessed. Such important members of our community. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.